everyone, it's Jürgen here at Polymash. I'm back on a Saturday, unscheduled somewhat, as a follow-up from last week's SEO Saturday conversation that we've had and live stream that we had. And in it, we did sort of an amazing demo of a tool called Topic that has been instrumental in allowing us to increase our website traffic for a piece of content that had dropped off the first page of our page of the search results by 350%. Our rank increased by 120%. So I thought I would write up a case study on my site, and I thought I would throw out this little live stream here to just sort of illustrate, what happened. So it was a bit of a sad story that I relayed last week or last weekend rather, and of how we dropped off, and that story has a happy ending because I want to show you that what happened this week in only 1 week through content grading, through a content brief, and through a content optimization tool that gave me some very specific recommendations on what to change on a hero post that I had. And this works for episodes, it works for blog posts, and in this case it was I have a podcast website, of course, so in this case it wasn't a podcast episode article, but it doesn't make a difference, it could have been. And so we are also very excited next week to have one of the founders from Topic, Rio Chiba, will be joining us to co-host next weekend's SEO Saturday, and we'll do live SEO as always, but we'll also do some live content briefs and live content grading to help podcasters either prepare for interviews where they want to cover a topic comprehensively, or update their back catalogs where they may have a library of show notes already that are hanging around on page 2, which is very much like my example. I was hanging around on page 2, and I am back, baby, on page 1. So it's, I'm very excited about this topic, as you can tell, and I'd invite you to come join us. I'd invite you to apply. Just go to seosaturdays.com, apply for your show to be included there, and let us do some live SEO for you, and let us try and achieve the kind of results that I'm sharing in this case study. So that said, you'll also be able to see the SEO case study and the article that goes along with this video. You will be able to see that on our site, either at polymash.com and just go to our blog or to the podcasting portal, or you can go to seosaturdays.com where you'll also be able to see it. So without further ado then, let me cue up a bit of a replay from last week that sort of gives the background, and then at the end of that I share what the results have been. So enjoy, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. Okay, bye for now. The next insight, and this is where it gets a little more interesting, is something also that Scott and other folks that have been to our attended our workshops would realize, is that long form content tends to rank higher. But the insight for me was a little different. It's that it ranks higher because it attracts more links. So it's not the number of words that are important, and that kind of was. That was sort of not a surprise, but it was just a reframing or a good reminder for me, is that the word count alone doesn't make the difference, but having backlinks makes the difference. And what happens is that when you're writing articles that are, no one links to this, no one links to really super short articles from their site. If you're going to provide a piece of reference, if I'm going to provide an insight article about something, the likelihood is that article is, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, or even longer. And so it just seems that the longer the content is, the more words it has, the more likely it is to attract backlinks. But that's the reason that these longer form pieces of content rank higher. And that was a slight twist on that theme for me. And that sort of segues into the next thing that I want to talk about, and that's really the jump off. This is the last thing, but this is really the jump off point for a discussion that I'm looking forward in the coming weeks as well. And so what Brian found is that comprehensive content strongly correlates with higher rankings. And so now you might ask, what's comprehensive content? I'll give you a definition from them in a moment. But so it's not the number of words alone, but it's something else. And what is it? So comprehensive content in their definition is where you cover an entire topic on a single post or page. And so for podcasters, that raised some questions for me, right? Is it feasible? And for some podcasts, this answer is a definite yes. And for other podcasts, it might require some thinking about it. But so could you cover an entire topic comprehensively in a single episode? Now that got me thinking, and it got me thinking. Well, let me go into here's the graphic. I can't blow it up or zoom in as well on this particular graphic. But basically, what he's showing is that content grading through platforms like ClearScope, Phrase, and Topic. There are a number of different platforms that help with this, and I'm going to show you this in my little sad case study that I mentioned at the beginning. But the key takeaway for me is, writing comprehensive, in-depth content is what helps pages rank. Not necessarily the fact that it's 7,000 words. It's the fact that all topics are covered, or whoever covers the most topic about something. So I was thinking for Scott, for example, he wants to, and we're going to have this conversation in a minute, but just to get him thinking about this. For example, if you wanted to cover the topic of graffiti art for your Not Real Art podcast, could you have a conversation with someone? Could you structure your interview where if you knew what would be a comprehensive coverage of that topic, what are the top 10 competitors doing that are ranking, what topics do they go into? If you knew that ahead of time, couldn't you structure your episodes to cover all of those things? And then by the time that you get a transcript and write your article for the show notes, you would have the ability to cover all those topics. That's where my thinking led here. And so yeah, like that's what I mean for podcasters is, can episodes cover an entire topic in one single episode? And so I'm still evolving my thinking. Robbie, I don't know, with you, what your thinking is on that now. I think this is a point of discussion. I think maybe the answer is sometimes that may seem obvious and a great idea, and that other times, you kind of just ignore that part of the advice and you don't attempt it. So.
Well, I can, just a thought just came to mind, and I could use an analogy of a book and chapters, for example. So each chapter might be very comprehensive around a specific topic for the overarching book. Mm-hmm. So if each episode is contained in terms of what the topic might be, then that could be comprehensive.
And explores it fully, right?
And I think the other thing, it presupposes that, we are intentional about what the topic is. So, what are we podcasting about today? Whether I'm a solo podcast or whether I'm interviewing somebody, how can I be very clear and intentional about the topic and share that with my guest, perhaps in advance, unless, like me, you have this preference for spontaneity. It's more challenging to do that. But, I think all of these takeaways and these insights are to just help us to think more strategically about the content that we're creating.
I think that's excellent. I think, to be continued, right? Because the really exciting part for me is what comes out of this, and also, for example, back catalog, right? Back catalog work of, if you have, because the strategy that we often advise people to take, and actually, Robbie, that's something that you're working on back catalog as optimization for quite a few clients. And the strategy that we're taking is that focus on the stuff that's on page 2, right? Focus on the things that have just fallen off of the top of the search results, because that they're rank already. And if you had an analysis that said, hey, your content grade, and this is a term that I'm going to introduce here because that's what it's all about. Your content grading is a B or a C. And if you wanted to be on the top of the search results, your content grading which measures how comprehensively you cover something. Okay, that's what a content grade is. Your content grade is now an A+, so that it will help you compete with and get on page one for those search results. So with that, maybe the key insight for me is starting to think beyond what we're already doing, which is basic SEO, right? So for us who are using StoryChief, foundational SEO with Yoast, with StoryChief, with KW Finder, with where we are intentional about the way that we're designing our episode articles in order for them to rank and drive some traffic and have new listeners discover our show on the website. And that's, again, for those folks like Mark, or for other few folks that are on for the first time, like the course really explains and gives some case studies on what an awesome technique that is, that people are taking. So let me do the mea culpa, my own sad case study.
Your evolutionary story.
My evolutionary story. Thank you. It's like we're living in a sad time right now, but maybe we're living in an evolutionary time too.
We are indeed.
So here's an example of something that I used to rank on page one, podcast promotion.
And Jürgen, all of this is in the context of comprehensive content. I mean, is that just give us a context for?
Yes. So the ranking, I had this post, one of my hero posts, right? One of the cornerstones of my content strategy. And it happens to not be a podcast episode. And I think that, that's okay. It doesn't matter. But I had written this guide on how to promote your podcast. And it's a really long form piece where I thought I had pretty comprehensively covered the topic, and I would have thought that I would get a pretty good grade. But what I discovered was that
you did for some time.
Well, I did for some time, right? But now they're eating my lunch, right? So what's happened is, and actually you can see on the graph, you can see that the interest in promoting a podcast has been picking up, over time. And so that also means there are more competitors coming up. And it turns out that there are the people who are now ranking on the top of the search results for that term, only recently wrote these articles, and so that caused me to drop, and I'm now off the first page. And so, what should I be doing about that? And so, content grading. Then, this is where I'm playing with this tool, and this is almost at the end of this. What content grading does is, you see that on this tool, I got a B+ for that article, and I thought I'd done better. But I'm using a system here called Topic, and it did an analysis and provided me a content brief saying, hey, if you want to rank for that, these are the topics that you should cover. And look, I missed some. Like, I didn't talk about a target audience for podcasters. I didn't talk about getting business cards printed, and other sorts of things. So I went back and basically fixed those things and filled the gaps, right? So my content grade before was a B+, and now I followed their advice, went back into StoryChief, added some additional bits of content to my post, and now I'm getting a A++ in the topic engine. So here it's actually, we're looking at it live now, but the two things that jumped out at me that I want to explore is, one, if I just type in how to promote a podcast, and if I had an interview with someone on that, if I didn't have this piece of content already, or if this was like, for example, graffiti art, or the best graffiti art, if I was trying to design an experience around that, these sorts of content briefs will tell you what you need. So for how to promote a podcast, I needed at least an A, but now I got an A++. Okay, and so here are the outlines of what my competitors have written about. Here is a list of the questions that I should be answering in such an episode or in such an article. And I, for the most part, kind of do that. Here are some topics to cover, and what the weight is. So social media, by far, for people promoting a podcast, that seems to be a very popular topic. If I was to write an article and expect it to rank for how to promote your podcast, and I didn't talk about social media at all, then I can tell you that that article wouldn't get a good content grade and I wouldn't rank, right? So that's what the purpose of this kind of a tool is. And so the exciting news is that I reached out, I've been having some conversations with them, and they'll join us in 2 weeks from now and tell us a little bit about this tool. And they are very excited about shaping a tool like this to be useful for podcasters. In other words, give you an interview crib sheet. If you do some research and you say, hey, I want to have an episode with Man One, a famous graffiti artist, and we're going to cover everything there is to know about graffiti art in that episode, or at least touch on it, or at least give me a report card like this that's going to give me a guidance to that. That's the idea here. So I'm hoping that kind of makes sense. And with that, I'm going to just jump in here really quickly again, because there's a little gap in what I queued up. But just hang in, because in a few seconds, I think what we'll be seeing are some of the screens that explains the results that we received or that we got from doing this thing. So kind of just hang in. I will edit this part out of the replay of this live stream. But for now, just have to give it another minute or so. So here are the results after 1 week. I just wanted to add this update to the end of the video. So as you can see here that I was sort of stuck in position 16 or somewhere thereabouts in earlier of April, and started to do the content grading on the 2nd of May. On the 4th of May, actually submitted it to Google for indexing, and then, rose up to position 7 pretty quickly, which was great. I'd loved seeing it back on page 1. And as we all know, that the difference between page 1 and page 2 is, it's hard to even overestimate. Every position in the search ranking that you have on page 1, moving one position higher really constitutes a significant amount of additional traffic. And so here I went from position 16 to 7, which is, it's very competitive. And then also you can see that the increase in traffic itself actually increased by 351%. So, I'm now back up to hundreds of visits on that page, and my signups increasing. So you can see the power of doing this across your site or across your back catalog if you were to go in and apply content grading to some of your older posts. And this is also why I'm especially excited to welcome the folks from Topic, Rio, one of the co-founders, for our next SEO Saturdays. I'm super excited of having him here doing live demo of the tool, helping fellow podcasters do exactly what I just went through with this post for one of their own episodes or episode topics or back catalog items. So that's it. I'm signing off for now. I'm very excited about this case study. I'm posting it on my website and you can read all about it there. Bye for now. And this is Jürgen from Polymash signing off. See you all next time on SEO Saturdays.